adjust to that pass.
Yep. Jacoby, what you got?
Jack Doyle, again from Jacoby Brissett, first down, and Vontaze Burfict is going to be ejected. Let's take another look, and we'll show you why.
He's jumping with the helmet.
Like a missile.
That's the right call.
Yeah, I mean, the game is different, man. You cannot lead with your helmet, especially for a guy who's defenseless on the ground like that. I mean,
that requires to walk up. I know he tried to get up, but still, you talked about it, helmet to helmet. They're not going to let that slide.
No.
All you have to do is you can go up there and just tap him. He's on the ground. He's down.
Or lead with your shoulder. If you lead with your shoulder in that situation, even if it's a penalty, you're not out of this football game.
Right. And so Burfict, who's been suspended a total of 10 games.
Even be for the entire 2019 season. Wow, I haven't seen that type of punishment, but you guys heard based on his history. Max, what should the punishment be for Vontaze?
I think they got it right. Here's the thing with Vontaze Burfict, and I may be not as down on him as some others. I don't think this stuff is premeditated. He's a bad guy. He's up to no good. Vontaze Burfict, from my point of view, pretty clearly has an impulse control problem. In the moment, he has impulses that he can't control. I mean, like that doesn't make it premeditated, but it makes something that, that's a problem you're going to have to deal with. I go back to the Steelers-Bengals game where the whole question of the sports world, will Vontaze Burfict do anything?
I'm at a loss for words. I really, really am. There's nothing else that I could say. I had the pleasure of meeting this brother in L.A. when All-Star Weekend was in L.A. a few years ago. Sound like an incredibly sensible guy, smart, underrated smart people who realize how intelligent the dude is, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, your record is what speaks for you. Prior to yesterday, we're talking about when the guy got let go by the Bengals in March. Prior to yesterday, you're talking about since 2014, fined 6 times by the NFL for dirty plays, costing them nearly $350,000. Since 2016, suspended by the NFL 3 times for a total of 10 games for infractions that range from repeated player safety code violations to use of banned substances. Going back to college, he had 16 personal fouls in 26 games. According to an ESPN profile, 3 of those came in one half against Washington in 2009. The list just goes on and on and on. And at some point in time, you are what you do. What you repeatedly do. You are what you repeatedly do. And so when you take into account the number of infractions that have been levied against him, and then to have this latest one take place yesterday, and for him to run off the field after being ejected with a huge grin on his face, you can label it as a problem or whatever the case may be. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I ain't here to debate that. What I'm here to say is the NFL rules specifically stipulate certain things. This man is smart enough to know what those rules are and evidently has no problem in violating those rules and regulations against his very own contemporaries. There is no excuse. It cannot be defended. And I'm not calling for anything specific. What I'm saying is whatever penalty that the NFL hands down against him, he brought it on himself. It cannot be defended.
Yeah, I don't think this one's hard for me, for someone who played the game the way that I did, who played the game with people the way that my teammates played in Pittsburgh. We obviously had a huge issue with the CBA because there is no rules that really govern what Roger Goodell and the NFL can do right now to Vontaze Burfict. There's no set guidelines and regulations that say, okay, because this is your 4th offense or your 5th offense, this is the type of penalty that we can levy on you. But I will say this, as the rules change and as we were getting fined more and we started to cost our team and more information came out about CTE and the effects of concussions and the different things that the PA and the NFL have tried to put in place to make us aware of the physicality and the negatives of this game, so did our games change. You know, you had to lower your strike point, and you had to understand that there are going to be some plays you're going to have to let off of the offensive players, and it gets difficult. I think the thing about this one is that it's egregious. You can obviously see where Doyle is catching the ball. He has an opportunity where he can lower his strike zone. He is spearing Doyle in the head with his helmet, and I agree with Stephen A. When you run off the field and you're smiling and you're blowing kisses to the fans in Indianapolis, it also shows that you're not trying to change your game, and in not trying to change your game and putting your contemporary, putting your peers at risk, not even caring about the penalty to your team or to yourself. There is no repentance. There is no contrition. You feel like you can do these things and there will be no penalty, or at least no penalty that you find too great for your career, because you continue to do them. And so if the NFL says he can't play the rest of this year, I believe that's okay. If the NFL says that he can never play again, I also believe that's okay, because where it is, I don't believe the NFL has to be the world's moral compass away from the football field, away from what happens in between the lines. They do have to keep this game pure to its nature.
Well,
and if you are about player safety, he is clearly someone who doesn't care about that and needs to be made an
And he
example
was
of.
laughing. I don't know if you guys saw as
That's
he was
what I'm
going
saying.
away from the play.
Here's where it gets a sticking point, because when Ryan Clark and Dominique Foxworth were here together a few weeks ago, you talked about CBA negotiations. You talked about things that needed to be addressed. Well, let's look at some of the offseason rules, for example. You're talking about 4-hour days. You're talking about things being confined to strength and conditioning, or being in the weight room, being off the field, avoiding contacts. Things of this nature are what the Players Association, in concert with the NFL, went about the business of implementing into the CBA for the sole express purpose of creating a safer working environment. Yet you have this player going out on the field versus his own contemporaries, violating the very things that y'all have worked diligently at a negotiating table to implement, to ensure his safety.
The one thing I'll say,
and that's what I think can't be ignored here. So the Players Association, Max, I'm only saying that to say, there are rare instances where the Players Association needs to implement itself in a fashion where they take the position of supporting the whole as opposed to an individual because of the process.
The one thing I'll say about him running off the field smiling is, if you have an impulse control problem, which I think is the issue with Burfict, and you do the bad thing and you realize it, that could just be covering up. Like, that could just be like, I might as well go with it now. I'm the bad guy. I might as well go with it now. And he's fronting. He's playing it off. But he's got to know at some level, as soon as he does that,
Kind of classless.
I messed up again. Yes, but like, what I'm more interested in is what his long-term attitude is, what he has to say about this, than his reaction right after the event.
I appreciate that. My only response is, and we'll close, is that what I'm most interested in is the lives of the many. The people that you affect because of the damage, whatever the impetus behind it is.
Listen,
can't
Ryan Clark with the NFLPA, former player, defended the players, is one to say he would be okay if he didn't play the rest of the season, maybe never again. That's